You're listening to Unity Online Radio, the voice of an awakening world.
Thank you for tuning in for this Unity Partner Program. Unity Online Radio partners with spiritual leaders from organizations whose mission and messages complement Unity's. We are pleased to bring you this program on Unity Online Radio, the voice of an awakening world.
Thanks for joining us for Living on Purpose with spiritual psychology doctoral candidate Jesse Herriott from Atlanta, Georgia. This program is where psychology is blended with ancient wisdom. Welcome to the program. Here's your host, Jesse Herriott.
Thank you so much, folks, for joining me for another episode of Living on Purpose. My name is Jesse Herriott, of course, and I'm excited that you've decided to join me. It's been over a year since we've been having these fabulous conversations about transformation. We started out a bit talking more so about psychology, but now psychology is kind of interwoven into spirituality because I think it's all interconnected. And my guest today is an expert on talking about that interconnectedness, the one and the many. I'm talking about Dr. Tim Freke, and I want to start, instead of introducing him and talking about his bio, because I'm sure you know of him in his brand new book, The Mystery Experience, I want to read a quote from the book about enlivenment. When I'm enlivened, I'm filled with enthusiasm for life, and I want to actively engage with the challenges before me. There's a spontaneous flow to my life that makes living magical. I'm inspired and creative. I'm at my best, and my mundane life seems marvelous. Dr. Tim Freke, thanks for joining us.
It's a real pleasure. Lovely to be with you again.
Yes. It's been a year since our last conversation. I mean, I was telling you off air, I just can't believe it's been a whole year. Like, time has flown by.
Time is, as the great Douglas Adams, writer of The Hitchhiker's Galaxy, said, time is an illusion and tea time doubly so.
I know. So I want to jump into the book, that quote, enlivenment. First of all, I want to say thanks for sending me the book on last year. I'm still thumbing through it. And books like this, I don't like to just read all the way through. They're kind of like textbooks for me. So I dive in, study something, and come back out. And then, every time you read it, it's a brand new experience. So it's like you get through the book, but then you really don't get through the book. But that idea of enlivenment, could you unpack that for us? Let's start there.
Yeah, well, like many people who were involved in kind of the serious end of spirituality, my quest when I was younger, because I started this journey when I was very young in my teens, was for some sort of ultimate enlightenment, which is an idea, like many people, I just took for granted, because that's what everyone believed, that this was a journey and you would one day, if you were good enough, if you could meditate enough, if you were holy enough, then you'd arrive in this perfect sort of da-da, and you'd be there forever. It's interesting. It's taken me a long time, really, on my journey over many decades to get to the point of questioning that. And I've been very busy questioning the religion of the West, and have written about questioning Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, and then hadn't really done the same level of critique of the religions of the East, which I'd kind of sucked in a lot without noticing it. One of the ideas I'd sucked in was enlightenment. And as I started to do a critique of that, I realized I wasn't happy with it. It didn't fit with my experience. It didn't fit with the people I knew who were on this journey, and the amazing people I met also. It didn't really fit with what they were experiencing. And what I feel is we're dealing with a kind of a very Indian idea, really, and you don't get it in these other spiritual forms. You don't get it in Christianity, for instance. You don't get it in Taoism. If you go farther east. And so what I wanted to do was create a new way of approaching what the goal of spirituality is, rather than some withdrawal or some completely detached super spiritual state. And I feel like one of the ways of describing that goal for me is enlivenment rather than enlightenment. In other words, not a withdrawn sense of detachment in which I'm immersed just in the oneness of things and have left behind the illusion of life and all of that, but rather a deep sense of connection with that deep spiritual oneness, enabling me to engage with my everyday life, the ordinary life of Tim, with all of the joys and sorrows that come with a human life, and to do that in a way which is enlivened, in which there's a flow, in which I'm passionate, so that there's a deep peace in me, but there's also a passion. And I want both, and that's why I've coined this idea of enlivenment rather than just simply that traditional spiritual enlightenment.
I totally agree with that, because since our last conversation, I mean, I love talking with spiritual teachers, especially like ones like you, because you changed my way of thinking, and I love, this idea, and being, almost 26 years old, it's like you talk to people and they think I'm like 55, but it's just that because you're so open to learning, and, you stand on the shoulders of those that teach you instead of in their shadows. And so that idea of enlivenment has really stuck with me since the last time we talked, and I've noticed, since the last time we talked, my daughter's 2, and I'm going through the potty training stages. Well, not me, of course, with her. But life has an organic process to it, There's not this like, okay, I'm going to read this next book and I'm going to be there, like you said, and it's like, boom, things are just going to, miracles happen every day. It's like people chase the miraculous and they skip the ordinary,
Really, and what I guess the real surprise of my journey, and it's the central idea that the mystery experience. I mean, the mystery experience is a book you can dive into, but it is also a book. It's a complete journey. Mm-hmm. It will take you step by step, deeper and deeper in. But the place I end up is this place of both and, where you're able to be conscious of the depths of the one, which is a really profound thing. I mean, that's the deep mystical essence of spirituality. So I really want that, but I really want that along with Tim, as he is.
Yeah.
And the big surprise, I guess, of my journey, I'm 54. I don't know what that means, but I am. And that's all a bit strange and interesting. But one of the things I see with it, Jesse, is that it hasn't been what I expected. I haven't become super uber enlightened Tim. I'm not some super being. Far from it. What's happened is more interesting. What's happened is the more I've rooted myself in this deep oneness, the more I've been able to let Tim be just Tim. And, and he's a 54-year-old guy from the southwest of England who's got some qualities and some foibles and gets, scared by life sometimes and faces challenges that we all face, some of which seem a bit much and some of which are easy to surmount. And there's that journey we're all on, what Joseph Campbell called the hero's journey, which stays the same. The difference is you've got this inner source of strength and of love and of hope, which, if you don't have that deep spiritual connection, is hard to find.
Yes, I totally agree with that. And, the beautiful thing about Campbell is that when he talked about going down and retrieving the Holy Grail, you have to bring it back up into the ordinary world. You have to bring it back up into life. And how is it? I mean, I understand the idea of oneness, but why do you think we have this escapism? We always want to escape the mundane, the ordinary. We want to just hold on to the Holy Grail, and it's that wonderful, beautiful experience. And it's like,
there's a part of me that understands that, really, because life can be tough.
Yes.
And not only can life be very, very painful, it can also be very dull. It can be very repetitive. It can be, there's a necessity to life which can wear you down, and you can stop seeing the sparkle. You can stop seeing the wonder in life because you've become habituated to it. And so for me, the large amount of what the mystery experience, the thing I'm exploring is remembering the wonder so that you can stay alive to it. Like remembering that even when you're 54, you're still a little child inside. And so that you have been doing the same old thing, and you are facing the same old problems, and yet within that there's magic. I'm looking out of my window now. I've looked out of it a million times, and I can see the pink blossom which has just come out on the tree, and it is just exquisite. And I can miss that, or I can really see it. And if you really, there's a great story which I end the book on, from the Buddha. Where the Buddha, in his last sermon, he doesn't say anything, but instead he holds up this flower. It's called the flower sermon. Just holds up this flower, and then eventually he says, if you can see this flower as it really is, your life would never be the same again. And that is, that was his last great teaching.
Wow.
And there's something really deep in that, something so simple. If you could just see things as they really are, you would be enlivened. You'd come to life. And so the struggle or the challenge or the opportunity is now, this moment now. Can you see it as it really is? Can you feel the mystery of being right now? Can you open your eyes from that numbness that we call normal and start to wonder? Can you sense, we're alive right now. We're conscious beings. We're having this adventure. We don't know what it is. We're connecting over the internet. Wow. Across time and space.
Right.
And yet, even if we were face to face with each other, even if we were so close we could hold each other's hands, when I looked into your eyes, what I'd be connecting with is not something I can see. Your soul or your psyche, the thing that makes you, the thing which is going, and yes and no and all of that, is something which doesn't even exist in space. I can't even see it or touch it or hear it. Or, I would get to see your beautiful body, your face, your form, but what I would connect with is so mysterious that I can't even see it. And that's the same for me. These are wonders and they're happening in every second. And we can see them or we can miss them. And part of the job for me is just to keep reminding people, come on guys, let's stay awake to what's going on here. Let's not snooze off into we know who we are, because we don't. That's the whole point. We're finding out who we are. Let's not snooze off into we know what life is. Oh, it's just this. No, we don't know what it is. It's an incredible miracle happening, and it's not going to happen forever. Not for us. We've got a time span, and we need to grab it now, and we need to make that hero's journey while we can. Whatever's in front of us, take the next step, and then take the next step. If it's, we may be walking through the scary wood. It might be a really bad time for us. That's okay. Everyone has to walk through the scary wood. We may be in the beautiful meadow skipping, and it may be a really happy time for us. That's okay. Everyone gets to be in the meadow, but not necessarily at the same time. We're all at different places on the journey, and what we need is the encouragement from each other to just engage with that journey and see it for the miracle it is, and feel enlivened, really live.
Right. And I love the way you put that, because my next question, and you kind of started answering that, was this process of awakening. Like, what are we awakening to now? There were different stages of awakening during the 70s and the 80s and, further back than that. But what are we awakening to now in our generation? What's this thing that we call reality? Because as you said, we often live in a generation where we're constantly distracted, we're being told to do this, to do that, pay attention to the economy, and all of those things have its place, but it's like, how do we hold on to that, that process of awakening? How do we take that with us? Because, when you go to your job, there's this feeling that, okay, you have to shut this part of you down and be this. You can't have the both and, where you can take it with you and bring that experience to whatever it is you're doing.
I understand the attitude. I write about this. I teach about this. But, there's days when I walk in my office and I feel like that. We all do, but the truth is, recently I was, I really needed we had a bank holiday break here, and I really needed to just stop, because I've been doing so much, like we all do, and I just had a few days where I just meditated and came and just went right back to basics, right back to the things I discovered when I was 18, 19, 20, and looked at them again, because what I realized when I was very young is that what I was looking for was not in the world. It wasn't in the approval of others. You couldn't buy it. It wasn't in success or fame or any of those things. Good as many of those things surely are, and a great adventure, and if they come your way, wonderful. But the thing that I needed to find was a state of consciousness. Because without that state of consciousness, I would not appreciate any of those things, even if I had them.
Yes.
And not only that, but what I had to bring to the world, more than my talents, more than anything, more than my, skills, more than my effort, was first and foremost, before all of that, was also this state of consciousness. Because that's what the world needed. And that is what the world needs now. And I feel that therefore what we're trying to bring into the world is the same thing that they tried to bring in the 60s. It's the same thing they tried to bring in at the Renaissance. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing the original Christians tried to bring in 2,000 years ago. Those people have gone before us, and they've opened it up and made the journey easier, because they've opened a path for us to follow through. And now the path is bigger and bigger, and more of us can make the journey. But it's still the same journey. And that journey is to wake up to this deep spiritual essence where we're one and stay conscious of it. And it's hard because, like anything new, it's easy. You just go to sleep. Mm-hmm. But it's so worth doing.
It is.
And it's a challenge that nobody else knows you've taken on. So you can do it at work because no one else will know, except for the fact they'll probably find you a lot nicer to be around.
Yeah, right.
You don't have to talk about it. You don't have to do anything about it. If you want to, you can. That's great, but you don't have to. The real thing you're doing is to use a Buddhist term, you're becoming mindful. You're not just in your thoughts. You're conscious that you're conscious. Mm-hmm. You're conscious of your deep being, which is conscious, so that you are the space within which your thoughts are arising. And the minute you do that, your state of consciousness changes. You start to become deep awake because you're conscious of your depths. And it's very simple. And, you can sit and just practice it just by watching your breath. A good way is to just watch your breath and count each breath. Just 1, 2, and then hold with the 2, because if you get on, if you hit 3 and you've forgotten what you're doing, you'll lose it. And it's like you'll be, and just keep coming back, not because you need to, it's a bit like doing press-ups in a gym. That's not it. That's just that's just practice. But it makes you become this kind of what I call presencing or mindfulness. And you're just aware of your deep essence, witnessing this flow of thoughts, and you're no longer in them. So you're still thinking, you're still the same. Everything is exactly the same. It's just that you are now conscious that you're conscious. You're watching the whole thing, holding it, embracing the whole thing. And if you go deep enough into that, then this deep, what I call lucid living, arises. And that's an incredible experience then, which we can go into what that is, but that's when the awakening really, really takes off. And the project becomes, I want to be in that. That's what I want for myself, and that's what I want to give others. First and foremost, before anything else, because if I'm in that, I will be enlivened. I will love my life. And if I'm in that, I will be able to give this deep love to others. And if I'm not, then I'll shortchange myself and I'll shortchange them.
Beautifully said. And on that note, folks, we have to take a quick commercial break. You're listening to a dialogue between myself, Jesse Herriott, and the stand-up philosopher, Dr. Tim Freke. Stay tuned. We have to take a brief message. And if you're just tuning in, you can download the show in its entirety by logging on to my web TV program, www.youtube.com/Jesse Herriott, or log on to unity.fm program/living on purpose. And you can download the Stitcher app as well, so you can take the show with you on the go. But stay tuned. We'll be right back after this break.
When listeners like you contribute to the Unity Online Radio Network, you're making a positive difference in your life and the lives of other spiritual seekers. To contribute, visit www.unity.fm and make a one-time donation or sign up for monthly contributions. Thank you for your support.
If you've ever wondered how a specific Bible verse might be interpreted metaphysically, then Interpret This is for you. In Interpret This, Unity Minister Reverend Ed Townley answers your questions about the Bible and how to apply its verses to your life with passion, depth, and spiritual insight. To submit a question or to enjoy any of his numerous metaphysical interpretations, visit unity.org and click on the Interpret This box.
Are you tired of life slamming the door in your face? Did you get another rejection letter, pink slip, foreclosure notice, or go on yet another bad date? Does it seem like the older you get, the more hopeless life seems? Are you ready to stop taking no as your final answer? Then join us for Design Your Life, a talk show by Kevin Cottrell Ross, the coach's coach. Go into the locker room for 1 full hour with the championship coach every week and start designing your winning playbook that will make the rest of your life the best of your life. That's Design Your Life with Kevin Cottrell Ross, the coach's coach, Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Central Time on Unity Online Radio, the voice of an awakening world.
Thank you for joining us for Living on Purpose. Here is your host, Jesse Herriott.
And we're back having a wonderful conversation with the Standup Philosopher, Dr. Tim Freke. One of the points that we left off on was this idea of enlivenment if you're just tuning in. And one of the things I mentioned off air was that this experience isn't so much about conversion. You know, it calls us to experience life on a deeper level and a richer level. And I think just through the process of us living it, you know, that we become more aware of it manifesting itself in the world. You know, there are Buddhists that are living it. There are Catholics that are living it. Everybody, in a sense, is experiencing this on their own. Like, this experience doesn't need our help. And that's what I was saying off air. You know, what's your take on that, Tim?
Yes, because this is the idea which I explore in the Mystery Experience and way back in all my books, really, but it's becoming clearer and clearer, is, and what makes this philosophy unique, I think, is what I call paralogical thinking or paralogical philosophy. And that's a name which I've tried to give to something to mark it out, that it's an approach which sees the paradox of life in everywhere. So it's not this or that. It's both this and that. So you can look at things both ways, and they're both equally real. So for this moment, I can look at it from within the story, and there's Tim, and I'm separate from you, and I'm separate from life, and that's what's so interesting. And there's all these colors and textures, and it's my normal state of consciousness. And then I can sink back into my deeper being, and it's all one. It really is just one life. And there's no separate Tim, and there's no separate Jesse, and everything is arising from one thing. And when I do that, then it all flips around. So, you know, normally I'm going, am I enjoying my life? And then I flip it around, and the question becomes, is life enjoying being me? Mm-hmm. You know, is that force of existence? Is it coming up through Tim and going, yeah, or is it coming up through Tim and going, yeah, it's all right, yeah, whatever. You know, it's like, is it, you know, because it wants to come up and go, yeah, I'm alive. That's what it wants. I'm sure of that through all of us. So if it's not, what's in the way of that happening? And how can I change it? Now, obviously, one of the things which is in the way are all the things which I'm not satisfied in my life. And that's fine, and we need to change those. We do. That's part of what we do in our own lives and communally, in politics and so. But that everybody knows that to change, you know, the world is hard. To change your own world is hard, let alone the world.
Right.
But one place you can really start, the place where you genuinely have power, is in your own consciousness. Mm-hmm. There is a place where you can, right now, whilst we're talking, now, this instant, you can actually change the world completely. You can step back into your deeper consciousness. You can become conscious that you're conscious. You can witness this moment. You can embrace this moment as awareness, as the essence or spirit, which is your deeper nature. And at that moment, the way that you perceive yourself and reality is transformed. And that's something we can practice every day, all day, anytime we want. And it doesn't require anyone else to agree with us. It doesn't require us to be lucky in the way that life turns out. It just requires us to pay attention to the most obvious thing, that we exist and that life is a mystery.
Right. So what's the idea of lucid living? Like, lucid living is basically that in and of itself.
Well, lucid living really takes this to a very deep level, Jesse. It's a metaphor for me, which is very powerful, and it's a metaphor I've borrowed from many, many other people before me in all the traditions. The Zen tradition, you know, St. Paul says it, the other Gnostics say it. You see it in Rumi, in Islamic poets, all over. And, of course, you get it very much in the shamanic tradition, which is this: life is like a dream. Now, what does that mean, that life is like a dream? Well, from having studied it now for many decades and paid close attention, what I think that means is if you come into this deep awake state, it's very similar to lucid dreaming. You see the nature of this moment very similar to a lucid dream, and that's why I call it lucid living. So what do I mean by that? Well, when you dream at night, you can see quite quickly, I think, that your nature has this paradox to it, which I've been talking about. You know, in a dream at night, you appear to be in your dream. And you appear to be a separate individual in the dream, having your dream adventure, and the dream seems very real and all the rest of it. But if you're lucid, if you dream consciously, you can see, it's not quite like that. Actually, you have a deeper level to your identity, and you are the dreamer of the dream. So hang on, now which are you? Well, you're in the dream, on the one hand, but also the dream is in you. On the one hand, you're a character, a person in your dream, and on the other hand, you're the awareness within which the dream is arising.
Right.
And it's all you. There is no separation. It's all you. Now, what I think the great saints and sages and all those madmen and mystics have been trying to say to us for all these centuries, and what, in my experience right now, is true, is that this moment is similar. That on the one hand, I'm Tim in this great dream of life, meeting Jesse in this great dream of life, and that's true and real, and we're separate in this great extravagant world, which seems to be very real and in its own way is. And yet, when you contact the essence of what we are, our deeper being, what you find is that our deeper being is not a thing at all. It's the awareness within which the whole dream is arising right now. That this dream of life, this flow of colors and shapes and thoughts and feelings, sounds, is all arising within awareness like in a dream. And we are both in it and we're not in it. We're in it, we're not of it. We're in it as Tim, I'm in it, but as my essence, it's in me, just like a dream is in a dreamer. It's in me because I'm not a thing. I have no shape. I have no form. I'm awareness itself. And the dream is arising within me. So here I'm separate. I'm just a guy who's on this adventure and with all of the vulnerability that comes with being a human being. And then there's my deeper level where I am not a thing. I'm the presence of awareness, of being itself, within which this moment is arising. And I'm completely safe. I'm completely safe because I'm not in the dream. How can anything hurt me? And there's a deep peace, a deep hope, a deep reassurance which comes with that knowledge, which allows Tim to make the journey of life with more confidence because my deeper self is completely safe and at peace.
Right. And I love the fact that you talk in ordinary terms. So you talk about the idea of hope and peace because, you know, in spirituality, we have all these big words and big terms. But like you said, there's a basic element to everything that you're saying. It's deep and profound, but yet it's very simple that a teenager could get a hold of it, you know?
In my experience, Jess, I'm so pleased you said that because that's my whole ambition, is to take this, you know, I've had the privilege, and it is a privilege in my life, to study all of these mystical traditions. I've written 30-something books on just about all of the spiritual traditions of the world. And what that's enabled me to do is look at it and instead of seeing them as all different, saying, okay, these are all human beings like me trying to tell me something. And what I hear is they're trying to tell me the same thing, but in different words and in different ways.
Right.
And some are clearer than others, and some have got this bit but not that bit, and all the rest of it. But you can draw out from this deep teaching. And my feeling is right now, when you said, what are we doing now, is what we need to do now is state a new version of this ancient philosophy in a way which we can see it's for everyone. It's for people who are very intellectual. Yeah, great. Welcome. But people who aren't, people who are very heart-based, great. It's about love. Come on in. People who are very into the body, yeah, absolutely. Let's really use our senses. Great, come in. You know, it's like people who want to be very still. That's right. Come in. It's for everyone because it's the place where we all meet, and and it is something which it's so simple. That's why it's hard to get. It's not the world is complex. You know, I love science. If you want to understand science and things like that, it's very complex. But this deep mystical awakening, it's incredibly simple. That's why it's so elusive. Mm-hmm. So a 12-year-old should be able to get it. Anyone should be able to get it.
Yep, I totally agree. It's like the field that Rumi talked about. There's a point in which all of us can connect in, and right where we are, based on our proclivities and who we are and our level of understanding. Because, I hate to hear debates. Debates are cool. I understand knowledge and information comes out, but there's a place at which, like how you said, all of us can click in, Well,
I'm a both-and man, as you've probably gathered. Mm-hmm. So I find myself going, do you know what? For me, the best place, the place I love the most, is when I had it with Peter today, my friend and co-author that I sometimes write with, because we both know that neither of us know, because we're both conscious of the mystery. We can then play with our ideas very lightly, and then we can debate and we can disagree, and yet we know that fundamentally we agree. We agree on these deep things. We agree that nobody knows. We agree that we need to appreciate the mystery, and then we can play with ideas. And you get the best of both worlds by having this paralogical approach.
Yeah. And you talk about it in your book. You call it the univariety of the universe. Saying that on the surface of life, everything is separate like waves on an ocean, but at the depths, all is one.
That's the key. And, when we don't see the oneness, it seems a big deal. And one of the things which I have dedicated my life to, really, completely, is to show people that oneness. And I run these mystery experience retreats all over the world, in which I take people to a direct experience of that oneness. And people know they've arrived because it's not something you can miss. It's not like an intellectual understanding. It is a direct experience. And the hallmark, the telltale sign is this very deep, big love. This incredible love which arises quite spontaneously in that state. And what I have the privilege of doing is taking people to that direct experience so they can sense the oneness and feel the love directly. And my purpose in doing that is actually because once you've got the oneness, then you can return to the manyness. You can return to life as it already is and be enlivened, to live it in a new way. So my purpose in revealing the oneness is actually to enhance the experience of the manyness, of the separateness.
Right. So how do we deal with those times in which we're pulled out as if we feel I don't even want to say we feel human, we feel lower than that, whatever that is.
I know.
Dark moments, all the yucky stuff. When we wake up and it's like it's rainy outside, and instead of us feeling relaxed, we just feel depressed. How do we make because we can't get to that spiritual height of ecstasy sometimes, but, how can we get up out of where we are, in a healthy sort of way, if that's the right way of asking that?
Yes, I think it's such a deep question. And again, it's like it's the simplest and most obvious of questions, really, isn't it? And yet it's probably the most difficult challenge to answer.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? And make no mistake about it, we all face it. We all face it. And that's a big insight, to just realize that you're not alone. First of all, that it's part of the human condition. I said earlier, and I did it for this very reason, somebody who's listening to this conversation today is walking through the dark forest. They feel depressed. They feel lost. Someone else is skipping along the meadow feeling like, yeah, I get this. Yeah, woo, brilliant. And somebody else is stuck in the mud. It's like wherever you are on your journey, that's where you are. And just like a physical journey, you need to just keep going. Just keep going, and you will come out the other end. What can help you on the way? Well, the techniques to be able to, such as meditation, huge thing. I describe a whole range of simple techniques in my book, The Mystery Experience, which people can do. Just noticing the wonder of life, just doing that, just taking a second will transform things. One of the reasons, on my journey, the reason I'm a writer is because books have played such a role. Usually and often at times when I felt depressed, when I felt like, I've lost it, I don't know where I am, nothing makes sense. I've gone to a book like a trusted friend. I'll have some of Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj. I trust him. Talk to me, and I'll undo the book and he'll talk to me. And then if he talks to me long enough, I pick up on what he's saying, and I pick up on his vibe, and I start to feel a bit more inspired. And then it's like, thank you for that. Okay, I thank you. I think I can now step out. And of course, today we can do it even better because we can go on the internet, and there's videos, and there's inspiration anywhere we look.
Oh yeah.
To give you the energy to then go, okay, come on, let's make the journey. And if you haven't got the energy, then maybe you just got to rest until you do. I really am a great believer in patience when it's called for and loving ourselves. I'm not a very patient person, Jesse. That's the truth. I'm very impatient. And I find it really hard, but I've learned slowly, I'm learning, let me say, that I need to be patient and I need to love myself as much as I try and love others. Like most of us, I find the loving myself the hard bit.
Right.
I do. That's the hard bit. But I need to do it. And part of that, and it's easier to love myself when I'm shining and everyone else is going, oh, look at Tim, he's great. It's much harder to love myself when I'm not shining and people around me maybe don't think I'm so great.
Right. It's like when we make a mistake, because in spirituality, you can't make a mistake, because you're guided by the infinite intelligence, It's like, but what are the times when you're not so guided?
One of the things that I twigged a while back, which really made a big difference to me, and it's pretty obvious, but it's fun and important, is that, if I want to keep growing all my life, which I do, then I better get used to making mistakes.
Right.
Because the only way that I find something new is to realize I've got something wrong.
Yes.
It's only when I can look at myself and go, oh my God, Tim, what have you done with the last 40 years? You idiot. Now I see. Now, if I concentrate on the you idiot, then it's like, oh God, my life's been a waste. But if I concentrate on the new thing which has just opened up, it's the most exciting thing in the world.
Right.
So being wrong or seeing my own unconsciousness is actually really exciting to me now, because I realize, now life can really start happening. Because I've seen how unconscious I was previously. I've glimpsed something new. I've learned some new possibility inside myself. Brilliant. Bring it on. So I don't resist it now. It's like, come on, let's have some.
I know, and I love it. It's the journey. It's like life is fluid and it's not fixed. And as soon as you get a hold of something and you fixate on it, you think it's going to be there. It's it's changing, because it's an adventure. You're constantly growing and changing and moving. So I love that dynamism. I love it. I'm pretty much, I hate to say at the end of my contract, but my journey with Unity Online Radio is coming to an end as of June. And so I'll be moving to a web TV format. And I was like, like a baby, I don't want to go, because I've been here for so long. But it's like, if you hold on to what you have, you'll never, know what lies ahead. It could be something beautiful, but it's like you can't get there until you let go of where you are.
Yeah. That's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. I'm only a writer. I mean, really, if you look at my life story, I'm not a successful best-selling author. I'm a failed musician. What I wanted to do was be a musician, and that's what I was busy doing. And it wasn't until I went, finally, I failed at this, that the next thing I knew, I had publishers knocking on my doors going, will you write us a book? Will you do this for us? Will you? And the next thing I knew, I was writing and doing, and my whole life just turned inside out. So I think that happens a lot. Yeah. And when you said earlier, we need to trust it, that it knows what it's doing. I think it does. And that is hard because it involves so much struggle and suffering sometimes.
It does.
But when you have this, this is why it's so important. I feel like when I take people on the mystery experience retreats or when I offer them my books or online stuff, I want us all to have had at least one, as many as possible, powerful experiences of awakening, because once you've had it, you're never the same again. And that can sustain you on the journey. It can give you the faith, and it won't take away the difficult times, but it can sustain you while you make that journey until you can get back to back home and go, yeah, okay, I made it. And we need that sustenance. And for that to happen, we need to step out. That's why I call them retreats. You need to step out of your life, dive into the mystery of your own being, be astonished by the love that's waiting there. You feel the relief. Cry the tears if you need to cry the tears. Feel the exaltation if that's what you need to feel. Whatever it is you're going to feel. But have that gnosis, have that knowing of what is, of who you are, and then come back and make the journey. And then, but don't wait too long before you step out again and really dive in deep. And the more you do that, the more the two start to become one. And you can carry that deep awakeness with you into your life more.
Beautiful. And on that note, we have to take a quick commercial break. Folks, stay tuned. We'll be back with more Tim Freke after this commercial message.
wellness expert Dr. Michelle Robin on healthy living.
In the game of wellness, there's some basic habits that you need to embrace in order to live a well life.
In her book, Wellness on a Shoestring, Robin shows you that complete wellness of body, mind, and spirit doesn't have to cost a fortune. Client Eddie Penrice turned his health around with Dr. Robin's 7 Habits for a Healthy Life.
I've got to say my body just embraced the change. Besides feeling better, looking better, thinking more clearly.
Many of Robin's 7 Habits for a Healthy Life are simple and free. She offers tips and shares real stories from clients like Eddie, who've incorporated the habits into their lives and seen the results.
You can make this change by being convicted that you will do it, that you don't need anyone else's assistance or help to do it.
Make this the year you get healthy. Discover a low-cost, attainable path to feeling better than ever. Order Wellness on a Shoestring today at www.shopunity.org.
I will leave this world as it is.
The world is full of voices, advertising, television, politics, colleagues, family, and friends. All are too happy to tell us how to live. In all of that noise, it's easy to miss the one voice that matters. Your own soul. What would happen if you could hear that voice? Imagine the clarity, confidence, and courage that would be yours and the life you could create. Join Janet Connor, best-selling author of Writing Down Your Soul, The Lotus and the Lily, and Your Soul Wants 5 Things, as she and her guests explore how to hear the call of the soul and create the soul-directed life. Live Thursday at 1 p.m. Central, only on Unity Online Radio, the voice of an awakening world.
Go inside to find my God.
You've been listening to Living on Purpose with Jesse Herriott. If you have a question or comment about today's broadcast, or if you'd like to join in the discussion, friend us on Facebook at Jesse Herriott, or email us at livingonpurpose@unityonlineradio.org. Now back to Living on Purpose.
And we're back, and if you're just joining us, we're having a wonderful conversation with Tim Freke. And just to add to that rejoiner, you can also check us out on our web TV. Just Google youtube.com/Jesse Herriott, and you can get these same archives and much, much more via our web TV platform. And you'll see a lot more of us on web TV in the months to come. So, Tim, just to jump back into the conversation, I mean, we were talking about some amazing things. We talked about the fluidity of life, and life is not so much fixed, and deep living. What's the next stage of unfoldment for Tim? What can we look for from you in the future or in the now?
Well, I am working on a lot of new things. I'm working on a much more of an online presence because it gets harder to travel around the world as much as I do. So one of the things I'm working on, which should be coming online this year, is a new website. My current website is full of stuff which is worth visiting anyway. That's themysteryexperience.com. And the new site, which will take over from that, it's going to have a lot more online presence, so I can do work with people online. I can have an online seminar. I can do question and answers with people directly, individually and collectively online. And I feel it's time for me now to really connect in that way, because I have an audience of people which really is international. It's everywhere. And it's hard for people. I mean, my preference, if I'm honest, Jesse, is to be with people in person. And I'm hoping, I'm working on trying to get to the States this year. I've got 2 or 3 people have invited me. I'm hoping I'm going to get to run at least 1, if not 2, maybe 3 Mystery Experience retreats in the U.S. later in the year. But I'm also doing this amazing thing in Glastonbury, where I live, which is designed for people who like people in the US who need to travel. So I live in this magical little town. It's a tiny little place, but it's been an ancient spiritual center for thousands of years. Ancient pagan center.
Oh yeah.
And then it had the biggest. It's meant to have been the first Christian center in the whole of England.
Wow.
And then it had the largest abbey in Europe, which was torn down in the Reformation. It has this hill with a church tower called the Tor, which is a famous pagan monument, with the bottom of which there's this holy well where the Holy Grail is said to be. And the whole place is the Isle of Avalon of ancient the myths of King Arthur. So it's a deeply spiritual and mystical place. The street, the high street. There's only one street really, in the town. And there's a little high street, and it's the sort of place where you can buy every spiritual book or yoga mat or crystal, but you can't buy socks or saucepans or anything sensible.
Right.
It's that sort of place. It's magic. And this is where I was brought up near here. I was born quite close, and I live here. And there's this beautiful old manor house which overlooks the ruins of the abbey, right in the center of town. Magic place. And what I do is I get together there with 30, 40 people, and we dive in usually over a weekend into this mystery experience, so that people get to experience the oneness and the love directly for themselves. And really, nearly everybody does. Mm-hmm. And it's a great joy. So what I'm doing this summer, the 31st of July through to August, is 5 days with the afternoons free. So we get the chance to really get to know each other and dive into this over 5 days. But in the afternoons, people get the chance to go up the Tor, see the Abbey, go to the incredible Wells Cathedral, which is this huge Gothic cathedral very close by. We've got so much here. And people are coming from Europe and from America, and I expect we'll get some from the East as well, to come together. We'll form a really special group for 5 days and make this journey together. And become friends to explore the magic of the West Country of England as well. So there's a whole load there. I mean, things that I'm playing with doing. And if people want to find out, I really urge them to pop out to my website, themysteryexperience.com, because there's lots of things there. First of all, there's loads of interviews and videos and all that stuff. So that's the inspiration we were talking about earlier. Mm-hmm. Secondly, and this is the inspiration too, anyone could go out right now and they can get an ebook version for all the different readers. They can get the first third of my book, The Mystery Experience, completely for free now. My publishers have made it available free. So they can go out, they can download the first third of the book for free. If they like it, they can buy the book. But if they can taste it, they can have that. It's my gift to them. So that's available. And they can join my newsletter, which pops something out every few weeks, which is full of inspiration and will keep them in touch with things I'm doing and if I come to the States. And there's one other thing I'd really like to point up, Jesse, which I think you've probably seen, which is that we've made a film. It's a 5-minute inspirational film. And I really want people to see it, and I want them to share it with their friends. And it's on the website. It's got its own page called The Mystery Experience, and it's so beautiful. It puts this across. I'm so pleased with what the director did. Go out in 5 minutes is real inspiration. Well, you've seen it. What do you think?
Yes, I love it. The one where it's like it's moving in slow motion. You're out there in the field of butterflies.
Yeah. No, there's an even better one now.
There's another one.
It's also incredible. I love that. That's another one. But this one is beautifully made by a filmmaker called Nick Ralphs, and it's about the actual experience of awakening. And it's beautifully filmed. We had very, very, very high technical standards. Used an amazing camera, and I really got something across. And if you haven't seen it, Jesse, I really urge you to go and see it and share it with your friends too. It's on themysteryexperience.com under The Mystery Experience, and it's a powerful little film, and I'm so pleased with it, and I want to share it with the world.
Oh, yeah. After this interview, I'm definitely going to look at it. Folks, if you go to themysteryexperience.com and click on the Mystery Experience tab, which is the second tab on the website, the video automatically comes up, and it's called The Mystery Experience. It looks like it's going to be great. I can't play it right now because we're talking, but after the show...
I know. What I tried to do with that film was condense down the essence of the message. And it's really what we've been talking about today. The essence of the message is, look, in my experience, sometimes life's hard. Sometimes I don't even like myself. Mm-hmm. And yet, also, sometimes it happens. This magic happens, and I wake up. And I see how incredible it is to be alive, and my senses come to life, and I feel this oneness and this love, and I feel like I'm just dissolving in a whole ocean of love, and it's like coming home.
Yes.
That's the experience. That's what spirituality is about, is to keep getting us back in touch with that, oh my God. And that's what I want to share. That's what's important to me, to share that with as many people as I possibly can.
And to add more to that, chapter 26, loving being human. It makes you feel safe to be a human. Like, okay, I don't have to be this. I don't have to change my name, because I think everybody went through that name change phase in the 70s. So some are going through it now. Like, you can be Tim or you can be Jesse, and it's okay. You're still spiritual. You're still okay.
I know. I mean, with a name like Tim Freke, I really should have changed it. Maybe Swami Blandananda or something. But no, it's not that. That's the great joy. Is like what's happened for me is that I felt like, oh, I can just be Tim. And what's great about that is if I can just be Tim and you can just be Jesse, and we can meet in that authentic, vulnerable humanity and this deep safety of our spirit at the same time. That's the best. And that's what happens on my mystery experience retreats. We get to meet. We don't have to be special people. We don't have to be better. We don't have to be different. We can just genuinely be what we are. But we can be it with this knowledge that behind the scenes, we're all one.
Yes.
And then there's this love which connects us. And we can not only love each other, but we can even love ourselves.
Yes. You talk about in your book, knowing yourself and showing yourself, about taking the sense of knowing and then bringing it into everyday life.
See, there's another paralogical insight. It's a both and insight. A lot of spirituality is about knowing yourself, but I don't think that's all of it. That's just half of it. The other half is daring to show yourself, or to put it in other words, there's self-realization, but there also is self-expression.
Yes.
And for years, as someone who was both drawn to mysticism and was also a musician and an artist and a writer and a creator of things, there was this huge tension. Oh, which am I going to do? Am I going to express myself, or am I going to realize myself? Do I withdraw from the world into meditation, or do I enter into it and the passion of being an artist? And where I've ended up is, look, it's both. Whoever you are, whatever your thing is, you realize who you are, and then express it. That's what you bring to the party, and that's what we want from you. We want you to express yourself, and when you do, it's beautiful.
Right. So what are we missing, Tim? Are we missing anything? Are we missing anything in life, or as far as who we are, what we know, what we do, or is there something missing? Because
yes,
you asked that question here.
There is something missing, and it's this awakening. And that's what I call the hole in the soul. In my experience thus far, the only thing which fills that hole in the soul is this big love. When that big love is not present, there's always something wrong. There's always some underlying, what the Buddha called it, dukkha.
Yes.
It's like underlying the suffering of existence, of being separate. And that's a good thing, because that dukkha, that suffering of separateness, it's like the little irritation which pushes us onwards. Come on, wake up. And then when we find that oneness and that love, is the relief of being home. Suddenly everything makes sense. Suddenly, this is where I'm meant to be. And most people have had that at some point. Most people listening to this, I hope, will go, yeah, I had that once, or I've had that many times, and I want to have that again. And then, and that's what we're missing. The sense of missing something is not a failure. It's a natural part of the process which moves us on to find more. And that more that we find at the end of the day is love wisdom. It's the love which arises from oneness, and the wisdom to bring it into the world of separateness.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, Tim, 2 minutes left in the show. The website is www.themysteryexperience.com, and the book. Where can we find the book?
Well, again, you can find that on the website or at Amazon or at bookshops. The Mystery Experience is my latest book. It's really the manual for this. It is a journey which will start you off, and I think you'll find it's full of laughs, it's full of fun, but it's also a deep, revealing book, and it's practical and it's philosophical. It points, it attempts to do things in a very simple and direct way, but it is, don't make no mistake about it, it is dealing with the deepest part of mysticism. It's not pulling any punches. It's really going, look, this is the thing which people have been talking about for these hundreds and thousands of years, and which we need to rediscover and bring into our world today. That's what is before us, and every single one of us is part of that, because we are all one. That's why we're all part of it. Whether we know it or not, we're all part of this same adventure, experiment, whatever the hell this thing called life is.
Beautiful, beautiful. Tim, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us all the way from Glastonbury.
It's a joy, and I hope one day that you'll arrive in Glastonbury and I can show you around our little town.
Yeah.
And maybe there's a few people out there which will go, yeah, I'd like to come, and which come to the retreat in the summer. It'd be so cool.
I know. I need to get out of Atlanta.
Come and see the world.
I know. Come and see the world. Folks, thank you so much for joining us on this week. Peace and blessings to you, and I will see you next week. Remember to live on purpose.
Thank you for listening to Living on Purpose with Jesse Herriott. Join us every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Central for more insights into spiritual psychology, ancient wisdom, and how it connects to your life today. Living on Purpose, only on Unity Online Radio, the voice of an awakening world. This program is brought to you in part by www.jesseherriott.com, where psychology meets spirituality. Connect with us socially on Facebook and YouTube. Keyword search Jesse Herriott.
Oprah Winfrey says that Eric Butterworth's book, Discover the Power Within You, changed her perspective on life and religion. Maya Angelou quotes Emily Cady's Lessons in Truth as she recalls her own spiritual awakening. What do these books have in common? They are Unity classics. Join Reverend Laura Beth Gilbreth, Minister of Unity Transformation, Thursdays at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, for Hooked on Classics, exploring Unity's classic books. Each month, you'll be able to follow along and contribute your thoughts, questions, and ideas as we examine a different classic Unity book. From Charles and Myrtle Fillmore to Eric Butterworth, Emily Cady, and beyond, experience the foundational teachings of Unity. Hooked on Classics, exploring Unity's classic books. Thursdays on Unity FM, the voice of an awakening world.
Inspiration only takes a moment. Take a moment now to reflect on this message from Daily Word. Is something in your life causing you concern? Don't be discouraged. The presence of God is peace and harmony, healing and creative ideas, is with you every moment of every day, providing the help you need. In quiet moments of prayer, let go of any concern. Anchor your trust deep in the realization that with God all things are possible. Never doubt it for a single moment. You are a spiritual being, blessed with all that you need for happiness and fulfillment. God's wisdom will guide you. God's strength will help you do all that you need to do. And God's joy will lighten your heart with hope and courage.
This meditative moment is brought to you by Unity. The four horsemen of the apocalypse, Armageddon, the lake of fire, and then the choir of angels singing as Jesus emerges from the clouds. The book of Revelation. Are we really destined to the gloom and doom presented in the final book of the Bible? Or is it possible that within Revelation lies a spiritual guide to the human experience? Listen to this special series as Rev. Ed Townley, the author of Kingdom Come, and Reverend Ellen Debenport, author of The 5 Principles, contemplate the truth about the book of Revelation. These colleagues and longtime friends discuss the convoluted symbolism of Revelation, because Rev. Ed insists in his new book about Revelation that it's actually filled with positive reinforcement and helpful guidance. The Book of Revelation, an apocalyptic end-of-the-world prophecy, or a personal, practical guide to spiritual growth. Listen in to find out. This series begins Tuesday, April 16th at 6 p.m. Central Time. Kingdom Come, a journey through the Book of Revelation, only on Unity Online Radio, the voice of an awakening world.